Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Every day, tens of thousands of working parents across the country are being failed by inadequate childcare policies. These policies leave families financially crippled, stagnated in their careers and desperate for radical change. Families are being let down by ministers who are simply not doing enough. Indeed, in June 21, the government's own education recovery advisor, Sir Collins, resigned in protest at the government's failure to support children's recovery. The average price of full-time nursery place for one-year child is staggering £14,000, and 1 in 3 parents spend more than a third of their entire income on childcare. And more often than not, it is families who are on the lowest incomes, on universal credit, or single parents, or those with disabilities who suffer the most. The Labour's Sure Start scheme aimed to help people and was very successful. It supported working families with childcare. Naturally, the Conservative coalition cut its funding by 2/3 despite the policy's success. 1 in 3 parents with a household income of less than £20,000 have had to cut back on essential foods or housing as a direct result of childcare costs. A staggering 92% of parents said that the cost of childcare had affected their standard of living because the cost was completely unaffordable and had resulted in substantial impact on them. And it's not as if the nurses and childcare workers themselves are the ones who are benefiting from this. Research by the National Day Nursery Association found that 95% of nurseries in England did not even have enough funding to cover their basic costs after the impact of the COVID pandemic on their incomes. And now, in the midst of cost of living crisis, nursery finances will be even more squeezed by the rise in national insurance and the cost of heating and electricity bills. Nurseries such as Grosvenor Nursery in my constituency of Bolton South East are fighting for survival because of serious funding shortages caused by the disparity between funding overhead and staffing costs, not to mention the large deficit created by the pandemic. In a recent visit last year, I saw firsthand the hard work that their staff and management do to nurturing our future generations. This crisis is only going to get worse as more and more childcare providers go out of business, increasing demand for places and pushing prices even higher for families struggling with the rise of cost of living. Until recently, the government's underfunding was one of the main reasons nurses are going out of business. But now we are also seeing more nurses unable to open because of recruitment crises, with demoralised staff leaving the profession in droves. Part of the reason for this, of course, is the wages for early year staff are embarrassingly low. Can I remind the Minister that these are people who we trust and hand our children over to look after? Many of them are on national living wage, which is not enough for them to survive on, bearing in mind the work that they're doing. And nursery workers don't just play with our children, they are preparing them for schools. They are helping in their development and with their educational opportunities. The first 1,000 days of any child's life is crucial to their development and their life chances. People working in early years are crucial to this and should be paid fairly as a result. And this is more important even for disadvantaged children. Being in early education is one of the most important things you can help to close the gap for them. And lower income parents will be forced to withdraw their children who have the most to gain from not being a year behind their peers when they start school. Childcare not only has been neglected, but has been deliberately starved of funding and has forced parents, mainly mothers, out of work and into poverty. Labour would introduce breakfast club, support children in sporting and social activities abroad on their horizon. We would give children access to counsel to support their mental health, and we would introduce an education recovery premium to prevent children falling behind. Madam Speaker, I'll end my remark by reminding the House that Nelson Mandela once said that the true character of society is reflected in how it treats its children. And I have to say, the government's neglect of childcare is pushing us deeply into this.